You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Thursday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. You know what's going on in these crazy markets. Well, you know what? That's what we're here for. Let's find out together. It is time for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the ever scintillating, at least we tend to think so around these parts. And hey, we're not biased at all. Options Insider Radio Network. Reminding you, if you like what you hear, this show, anything else on the network or our app, throw some stars, some likes, wherever platform you're listening on, whatever it allows you to do. It does help new people continue to discover the content. And of course, you want to go above and beyond. You want to join us live on this show, everything else we do. You want to get 200 plus hours of exclusive content just waiting for you. The second you hit that button, the deluge just hits you in the face. So be prepared when you hit that button. A lot of great exclusive content coming at you. More every week, listeners, including a lot of early stuff coming at you, folks, before it hits the rest of the network. So a lot of great content to be found over there, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And because we like you, and because my staff is determined to bankrupt me, they want to also send you folks pro trading crates. So we give those away all the time too. theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Don't tell the Rock Lobster. He takes a lot of umbrage that you folks get all those cool, as he calls them, the good goodies, and he does not. But hey, let's not tell him and pretend it doesn't happen. theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Speaking of the aforementioned folks, let's see who's joining us on the program today. The uncleist of Mike's on assignment today. So no Uncle Mikeage. No, I think he just passed out from the effervescence of this market. He just couldn't take it anymore. The permabull that he is, he got hot. He got the hot and bothered, and he just couldn't take it anymore. He had to go fan himself. So no Uncle Mike today. Of course, you can find his nuggets, his pearls of wisdom at Mike Tusaw on Twitter, or just stcharleswealth.com is the place to go to learn more about him. But we are joined by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from optionpit.com. Remember, whatever you do not mention the pro trading crates around him. Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to the program. Pay no attention to that pro trading crate behind the corner, sir.
I have learned to just block it out. That's where I am right now. I just block it out, and it's okay. And I've learned to live with it.
Just let the pain, just sweep the pain under the rug, with everything else.
Exactly.
It's a good way to live life. I watched that Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary, so that's making the rounds on Netflix now. And he doesn't seem like a very big on introspection guy either. He's like, just keep moving forward. Pay no attention to those feelings. Just keep moving forward. That's his motto for life. It seems like it worked out career-wise for him. Personally, maybe not so much. But intriguing one. Check it out if you haven't. It's got me back in an Arnold mood. I've been kind of binging some 80s Arnold films. Checked out Predator last night again for the first time. Showed it to my kid for the first time in I don't know how many years since I've watched that movie. A seminal 80s action film, if ever there was one. Speaking of seminal, he is the seminal flow master himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from CBOE. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome back to the show, sir. And when was the last time you saw the seminal film known as Predator, sir?
I worked at a video store in high school, and probably that's about when it came out. I don't know if I've watched it since then, unless I'm thinking of Rambo, around the same time, I think.
I don't think I've seen Rambo in even longer. Now I need to add the Stallone oeuvre to my 80s action list as well. I have a lot of 80s films to binge, I think, in the coming weeks and months. And we have a lot of trading to talk about, so let's get to it, listeners. A little bit of the old trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, let's get out there. Let's see what's trading, what's lighting up our screens, what's got Uncle Mike so hot and bothered out there today. And it's just another day of irrational exuberance, effervescence, just lots of green. Call it what you will on the screen out there today. Market really just shrugging off Powell and company and saying, you know what? We thought maybe they were going to not hike for a while. Powell trying to be a little bit more hawkish yesterday, even though it's kind of a bit of a mixed bag from him and his company. Market just shrugging it all off, rally ho mode, back up north, listeners, north of 4,400. We are 300 points higher in the S&P than we were just a few weeks. I mean, we were south of 4,100 not too long ago. It seemed like we were locked around that 4,100 level forever. I mean, that was just, we were glued there. And now here we are, 300 handles higher in the S&P. A crazy town, and a lot of that coming again today. 30-plus handles on the board again today, about 0.75% to the upside for the S&P. The Dow up a little over 1%. And a rare day, the tech-heavy NASDAQ. The big tech names, they can't carry the market every day. Today, taking a bit of a break, only 0.5% to the upside for the tech-heavy NASDAQ today. So you have a little bit of an inverse of the usual market that we see, listeners, with the NASDAQ being the laggard and the Dow actually leading the charge. So the old world economy, a.k.a. usually the index that doesn't really have any AI exposure. So it's the laggard today taking the catbird seat out there. Let's see what else is going on out there in the market. Of course, post-Fed and a lot of green on the screen. You expect vol to come in, but we have been moving pretty aggressively. People always forget this component to the vol equation. At the end of the day, movement is vol, whether it's upside or downside. Everyone thinks red is vol, green vol comes off. And in a traditional quiet market, you're kind of gently drifting. That is usually the case. But when you're actually moving a bit, like we are today again, vol manages to remain firm. That's pretty much where we are right now. We're also hanging out at some pretty low levels, at least for the last year or so out there from a vol perspective. Obviously, longer term, different story. But for right now, the frame of reference, the market we've been hanging at, the vol regime we've been hanging out at for some time, we're looking fairly low. 14.25 when we kicked off the show today, down about 0.25 point. So vol kind of treading water since our Monday show, which is kind of interesting, going all the way through the Fed announcement, coming out the other side, hanging out almost unched. That's kind of intriguing. VVIX looking a little bit frothier, though, listeners. VVIX 94, up about 4 points from where it was this time last week. VXX 2760 when we kicked off the show, down almost a full point, about 0.8 of a point from where it was at this time last week. UVXY, it's coming up, listeners. It's coming up on the reverse split, so it's just kind of doing its own thing right now. 217 when we kicked off the show, down a whopping 0.08. If you can't wait to really trade this thing again, then you don't have to wait much longer. Next week, listeners, the 23rd is when we will have that 10-for-1 reverse split, which, looking at it right now, maybe they want to go 20-for-1. just putting that out there. SVIX 2540, actually up 0.6 of a point. You know, SVIX, that's our inverse friend out there. It seems like every time we get on the show, listeners, it's at a new, pretty much all-time high. And it hit it again today, 2576. New all-time high this morning for SVIX. So wherever he is right now, the once and future Dr. Vix, pretty happy. He is, shall we say, overweighted in SVIX. So he's liking a new all-time high just about every day out there. UVIX 5.5, down about 0.3 of a point. And VolQ at an 18, up a whopping quarter. So a lot of vol treading water. Got a few movers out there. By the way, speaking of the once and future Dr. Vix, he was on the extra credit we did for Vol Views last week. Obviously, no live show last week. And he mentioned picking up some June 15s going into the Fed. I asked him yesterday what he ended up doing with those, and he said he was working to get out of them post-Fed. So it sounds like he probably was able to maybe scratch them. We'll see. We'll find out. But no, obviously, if you watch the markets, you know there was no explosive vol upside to really capture post-Fed. So those kind of go in the way of the dodo. Let's go out now to let's go out to the Flowmaster hot seat out there in the lands of NYC. First off, Mr. Flowmaster, the last time we chatted with you, you were choked in apocalyptic dust and smoke, sir. First off, are things better out there? Can you see again? Have you taken off the Bane respirator since the last time we chatted?
Yeah, it cleared up. Everybody I know installed the air quality app, so it's a nice boost for the advertisers on that, I guess. It's been pretty nice. We actually have a beautiful spring day today, so I guess as long as the wind currents stay the way they are, it's not our problem.
We missed our chance for you to do a pretty sweet Bane impersonation, so I guess we'll have to wait for the next apocalyptic dust and smoke storm to come your way, and then we'll get one of those. How does that sound? Can you do a good Bane impersonation?
I'll work on it in the meantime.
You got some time. In the meantime, while you're working on your sweet, sweet Bane impersonation, what's catching your eye out there in these somewhat intriguing markets?
Yeah, I mean, everybody was kind of sitting on their hands into the Fed, and we were watching that 0-day straddle, right into the announcement, because, the fun thing about 0-day options is you don't really have to think about them in vol terms and skew and all that kind of stuff. You just look at it in price. So we had a couple of side bets going on kind of where that straddle would be right into the news. It pretty much hung out around $30. This is the SPX at the money, right into the news. And then, we definitely got a little bit of whipsaw after the announcement of the pause, and we kind of finished almost flat. It was a big nothing after all that. That straddle went out worth about $2. So, but if anybody was short it, you'd have to stomach some nauseating moves, or just not look at the screens for a few hours. But I mean, otherwise, kind of people are busy today. It looks like it's the first day we're going to see total volume around 51 million contracts, which is the highest since the beginning of the month. So we kind of had a relatively mellow couple of weeks. Really, I think when everybody's focused on a Fed announcement, you get a lot of people doing nothing because they just don't want to be wrong. So. And we're kind of there's a lot of fun stuff in the odd block today to talk about. So I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, it should be fun indeed. And that also means some poor bastard bought that straddle for $30.
Well, maybe he got out though. You had a chance there to get out.
He had some chances. You're right. It was a rough 45. Trade. It was a rough trade either way. Either you're choking on that $30 and trying like hell to get out of it, or you're short it and you're doing all right, but you're sweating bullets and popping tums the entire way. So a rough roller coaster ride, kind of in either direction on that one. So there you go. There's no free lunch at the end of the day. You got to sweat it out, listeners. Some of these fun trades out here. Let's keep on rolling. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. First off, how many $30 0-day straddles did you buy ahead of the Fed? And then what else was catching your eye out there this week, sir?
I didn't, although I did sell. I bought some strangles earlier in the week, and I know I was pretty happy to sell the calls for like $4.5. And then I just looked at where they would be, and then they would be like 14, 15 bucks. So the straddles kind of blew up, to say the least. I think, I'm not going to say we're toppy, because that sounds kind of dumb relative, because all we do is go up. So, I mean, ultimately you got to say, hey, the market's going up, and if they're going to start buying the 500 calls in NVIDIA and 600 calls, I mean, I don't think anybody cares about the prices of some of these stocks anymore. And it's just how long they don't care. We've got kind of this historically as a quiet couple of weeks between now. We got the June 19 holiday. We got the 4th of July. And so you got that like 2 weeks before the earnings even start coming out in July. And when some of this big tech, is the market going to care about what their earnings are this quarter? And like last quarter, they're like, okay, well, things don't look terrible, so we're going to take everything up big. So I think until there is some kind of news to just juice stocks, I think we could certainly stay up here for a little while. And but again, don't know what's going on from that point of view. But I still think that people are still buying tech, and VIX can't kind of find that lower number. So historically, like a day on a Thursday, you've got the market up, and vol and VIX really can't find new lows. That always kind of gives me a little bit of the willies, I have to say. You'd like to sort of see that vol settle in, but it hasn't quite done that today. So it would not surprise me to see like a lower SPY by the end of the day, just because VIX, you're not getting any confirmation where like people are letting the vol kind of come in. So it's still, it gives me pause today. Let's just say that we had a little pause going on. It gives me pause.
Uh-oh. It gives the rock lobster pause. Rest of us know. I'm surprised. You're usually known to sling a strangle or two, but a little bit too rich for your blood this go around, sir?
No, I did have, like, I closed a lot of them mostly yesterday. And then, of course, everything took a whole nother leg up today. So I thought I was pretty happy. I still am. But I am looking at the pricing of, like Mark was just commenting, CBAS, like the 4042 strangle on XSP was $2.15, 0.5% for half a day, and then all tomorrow for tomorrow. It just doesn't feel like a lot of money, to be quite honest. But that's what we have right now. So I'm just, it all has been noted. Let's put it that way.
All right, let's keep on rolling. See what else we've noted. By the way, I am still getting greedy with the remainder of my VIX puts. I was talking with your buddy, the meatball earlier this week, and he thought it was time they had run their course, time to get out of them. And I couldn't say I disagreed with him, but I thought, you know what, I'm in for a penny now at this point, in for a pound. Let's see what happens on these bad boys. Post-Fed, maybe we'll get this just ball drubbing. And so far we have not. Then once in future, Dr. Bix loading up on the other half. He buys the June 15 call. So we're both working different legs of that same straddle now. I guess we'll see who gets filled first. It'll be an intriguing race out there, listeners. But maybe we'll have an update on vol views if I finally just I did bring myself down from some of my crazier, more outlandish offers. Let me just put it that way. Speaking of outlandish, let's see if the markets and the volume right now is outlandish. And the answer is, I'd say it's pretty strong. Let's put it that way. It kind of depends where you're looking yet again. VIX, for example, right now, looking pretty strong. 609,000 contracts on the tape, listeners. So a pretty robust day. We were talking not too long ago, a couple 100,000 contracts, maybe 300,000 by this time of the show. So that's pretty robust. We're certainly not north of 1 million like we have been recently this time of the show as well. So kind of a nice, happy middle ground. Looks like we're definitely going to hit that ADV, which has continued to move north since our last show, listeners. That ADV inching up all the way to 850,000 contracts out there. So a pretty robust day here for good old VIX. Well, let's keep on rolling. A day that ends in Y, listeners. SPY going to put up some numbers, and that is the case again today. SPY right now 6.3 million contracts on the tape, listeners. The ADV, 8.65 million. So SPY continues to just look more robust day after day out there. Doesn't really take much to send SPY, even on the quiet days. When VIX has 100, 200,000, we usually see SPY well north of 4 million by this time of the show. So SPY doesn't take much to get it sailing north, at least from an overall volume perspective, listeners. Let's keep on rolling. Let's get on out to the S. Now, the S, looking like a bit of a banger day out there today, listeners. The S, 2.16 million contracts on the tape. The ADV, 2.81. So the S closing in on 3 million contracts a day ADV. I mean, we're talking the S within spitting distance now of the Qs from an ADV perspective. So the S not playing around. A good time to be in the 0-day game, let's just say. I'm looking right now, listeners, and you know what? I'm looking at the top 20 in SPX, and I actually see a whopping 2 contracts that are not expiring today. We have 36,000 of the 4,400 calls expiring tomorrow, also going up today. They're actually a number 4 and the most active in SPX today. So a lot of action there. Now, of course, that's only going out 24 hours, so it's not that far, but at least it's not expiring today. And we also have some 3,500 puts, 21,000 of those going up today as well. So hard to believe there are contracts going up in the top 20 most active in SPX that are not expiring today, but today we have a whopping 2. So read into that what you will, listeners. But a pretty robust day for the S, and the ADV showing that 0-day train not slowing down anytime soon. What's looking decent, maybe taking a bit of a breather today, are small caps, IWM, 549,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV continues to go up, 1.13 million. So I thought, the 1 million it's been hanging out at for a while was pretty optimistic, and yet they've managed to hit or exceed that multiple times, and they managed to keep growing that ADV. So they are continuing to prove me wrong day after day out there in small cap land. And last but not least, we have the tech-heavy NASDAQ, which, as I said, kind of playing the laggard role today. A rear roll, doesn't play that too often, so it may be a little bit not practiced at that roll out there, but intriguing stuff nonetheless. We've got 2.25 million contracts on the tape for the Qs. That is exactly 1 million contracts short of its ADV, which is 3.25 out there. Let's get out to our single name most actives. It's a pretty robust macro and index day. Is it a day that the single names have kind of been left by the wayside? And the answer is a resounding no, listeners. There's paper for days out here, kind of what the Flowmaster was just saying. It seems like everyone's obviously sitting on their hands with the Fed, and we are kind of also post-May now, so we're kind of in that sell in May and go away. People are going out on their vacation, summertime. It's still early summer, but it's still summertime, so not exactly known to be seasonally the most active period out there. So maybe not surprising that the first half of June has been kind of light on the volume front, but today, making up for lost time, cost you 365,000 contracts to break into the top 10. That's the most active we've seen in quite a while. And again, we've had days where that was like number 2 or 3 in our list. That's already number 10. That gets us to SoFi. SoFi apparently finally, after just rallying like mad, getting all the way up to 10.25. Was that this week? Yeah, that was this week. That was on yesterday. Now selling off down to 9.30. So selling off nearly $1 in the last 24 hours or so. Still a long way. $6 off of its, $5 now off of its 52-week low of 4.25. But finally turning around here a little bit for SoFi. But you know what? Putting up some numbers today. 365,000 contracts for number 10. Number 9, the Amazonians. Amazonians all the way down number 9. You got a pretty decent day when they're kicked all the way down to the number 9 spot. We've got Amazon actually selling off a little bit right now, too. Off about $0.25, trading 126.17 right now. But good for 372,000 contracts on the tape. Number 8, it's my old stomping grounds and the mystery name for the rock lobster. He still wonders what this name is up to. This is Intel, not a name that we often bandy about these days in the most actives anymore, or even in the kind of tech mindshare leaders anymore. 35.60 right now, pretty much unched today. Looks like it's had about $1.20 range on the day, so that's actually not nothing for Intel, but good for 375,000 contracts out there today. So clearly the game is afoot. Looks like they might be investing in ARM. So maybe some of that. Also some patent issues going on with them as well. So some news in the offing there for Intel. Number 7, out to electric vehicles, listeners. It is NIO, 397,000 contracts on the tape. NIO popping hard today, though, 975, up about 75 cents or a little over 8%. My goodness, not bad. They have bounced off their 52-week low of $7. Looks like that came back in May of this year, so not that long ago. About a month ago, a little less, actually. And their 52-week high, 24.43. So NIO hanging out somewhere in the middle of that range. Is this the upswing? Is this the moment? I guess we'll find out, listeners. Number 6, this one, ever since it blew away earnings a couple of weeks ago, listeners, this one has been just a frequent offender on our most actives and popping again today, up another 65 cents, trading $16.50. Man, my 7.5 put sale that I missed looks worse and worse all the time. This is Palantir, listeners. 413,000 contracts, up another 65 cents today. Man, they are carrying this thing. Looks like they want to take it to 20 out there. And number 5, good old Microsoft. By the way, Palantir, 413,000 contracts on the tape, listeners. Number 5, Microsoft, good old softy. Man, they're popping this one hard today as well. $345 exactly, up $765 or 2.33%. My goodness, they're closing in on a $2.6 trillion valuation in market cap based mostly off this latter stage of this AI rally. So my goodness, Microsoft off to the races, 572,000 contracts on the tape. Right behind it, not to be outdone, we have AMD, number 4, 582,000 contracts here today. AMD actually giving up the ghost a little bit today. A little over $3, about $3.10 to the dark side, or about 2.5%. Trading 124.25. Number 2, yes, it's the Fruit Company, listeners. Have you put in your pre-order yet for your Apple headset Pro there? Don't call it an AR or VR headset. It is spatial computing. Have you put in your order for it? I'm not sure if you even can put an order in. Are you intrigued? You're going to go deep on the Apple headset? Right now, Apple looking pretty green, so the market's happy. 185.10, up about $1.15 right now. And looking pretty good here with 857,000 contracts. That's the most paper we've seen for Apple in a while out there. Apple's been kind of sleepy of late. But you know it's never sleepy, at least from a volume perspective. It's Tesla. Tesla off about a dime today, so not much going on. 256.70 at least right now. Looks like on the day they've had a decent range on the day. They had about a $10 range, about $10.50. They opened at 248.40, got up to 258.95. So they've had quite the range. Seems like they're settling down right now, kind of unched. But 1.7 million contracts already on the tape. So Tesla, as it is wont to do, putting up some numbers. Outside of that, listeners, as the Rock Lobster alluded to, we aren't really into the next leg of earnings season yet. That's not till next month. So we still have some of the dregs trickling in. We had Oracle on Monday. We had Leonard yesterday. We had Kroger today before the bell. They kind of screwed the pooch. No love there for Kroger today, as well as Adobe after the bell. So if you're intrigued by all things Premiere and Photoshop and all that fun, you got that popping off after the bell. Luckily for you folks, because we like you, we've got earnings move results, earnings season, and earnings trades reports for you over there, theoptionsinsider.com. That's the place to go to learn more. If you did that, you'd see all the data popping off right now. Our season kind of winding down, hanging out. Seems like it's going to come in right around the average, listeners. We're hanging out right now at 95%. Our long-term average, and we've been running these since before the pandemic, so going back a bit now, our long-term average is about 96. So it's hanging out pretty much right in line with expectations. Now, of course, if you looked at the numbers during the pandemic, we saw earnings volatility just went to die. Nobody cared. Massive underperformance cycle after cycle. Our long-term average then was much lower than it is right now. So it has come up quite a bit in the last few cycles. Doesn't seem like this cycle is going to be the one that moves us past the par level, the 100% level, but we shall see. Maybe the next cycle will be the one that brings us into all the action. Speaking of all the action, it's time to dive into. I know the Flow Master, he's been champing at the old bit to get there. It is time to unleash the Eye of Sauron, listeners, because it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, we unleash the eye of Sauron. Remember, listeners, if you want to unleash the eye of Sauron for yourselves, only one place to go, CBOE.com, to unleash the trade alert beast and put the full power of the eye of Sauron in your hands. If you did so, you would find yourself looking at some of the names we're looking at right now today. Like, let's kick it off with everyone's favorite. I've talked about this one in a while, but a decent year and actually a pretty good day today as well. This is Goodyear Tire and Rubber, ticker symbol GT, trading about 14 and a quarter right now, up about a buck or nearly 8%. So pretty good day for Goodyear Tire. On the year, kind of a bit of ups and downs. A year ago, $11.82. Then they rallied it hard, got up to its high for the year of $15.69 in August of last year. Then they came for it again, got down to about $10 in September, and it kind of bounced around in the $10 to $12.50 range. Seems like until April. We're still trading $10.50 or so in April of this year. And then they shot it up over the last few months. They shot it up by May 15th. It was trading $14.91. So threatening those new all-time highs again. Then they kind of sold it off again by June 9th. Just last week, it was trading $12.86 again. And then it's popped hard again, including another buck to the upside today. So an intriguing year, an intriguing month out there in Goodyear Tire. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what did your eye of the Flowmaster find today in Goodyear Tire, sir?
This is an interesting one. I mean, I kind of feel like, once we got past this Fed fear, I guess, market's really actually very strong. And I think you're starting to kind of get some pockets of pretty heavy speculation. And this looks like one of them. Things kind of exploded about 5 minutes into the day. And we saw most of today's volume kind of print in the first hour. And you're talking about 14,000 of the 14 calls, that were cheap to start with, meaning like, a few pennies, and they got up to about 40 cents. So I'm watching this one pretty closely just to figure out if this is one of these cases where we see a lot of heavy buying and then people are kind of getting out so that they don't really go home with anything, or if there's a little bit more to it. I did see a similar spike in activity about a month ago, but that was very different. That was more like one big old spread. So, seeing how much vol is up in this name, we're talking up almost 50 points. It's probably worth watching. I bought a little bit of stock when I saw it early, and I still have some. It's not the only name that we're seeing some pretty heavy stuff, especially, when we see like NKLA and all of the electric car companies, except weirdly Tesla, seeing some pretty heavy upward moves. Maybe it's just getting pulled into that ecosystem. I mean, you don't need gas, but you still need tires to drive around in electric cars. But it's a funky one. I mean, the volume has slowed down. The stock's still pretty solid, though. We're looking at basically call volume about 10 times normal. So that's a good one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, tires extremely important with EVs. First off, the cars are ridiculously heavy, right? So you need some pretty strong tires to hold these things. And people are also discovering, too, they start putting snow tires or other things on their EVs, and that range falls off a cliff, right? So the right tire for your EV becoming a big deal out there. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, did these Goodyear Tire trades, did they come across your radar today as well, sir? And what do you think?
They did, actually. And because I hear there's some activist investors going on this thing. So I thought this was kind of, again, I look like an interesting trade. I actually did a little risk reversal in here. I bought some July 15 calls, and I sold some August 13 puts. Because this is the second time we've seen this paper actually in here. So yeah, I thought this looked like some bullish flow in this.
Look at you piggybacking here. You're Mr. Strangle and risk reversal these days. That's kind of your new go-to.
Well, I didn't want to just straight pay for the calls, and like I'm looking for a little bit of credit and some stuff. So
yeah, I'm surprised you bought the call initially. Usually you want to sell that put and wait for so that must be a sign, listeners, that he thinks this thing is moving. If he's willing to actually shell out for the call first and then find a way to finance it.
That is correct, sir.
I know the Rock Lobster. He'll sell that put, and he'll wait till he really has to buy that call. So if he's doing it at the outset, listeners, intriguing. Pay note. Pay heed out there. Let's go out. Let's keep the ball rolling. Let's see what else the Eye of Sauron, a.k.a. today, the Eye of the Flowmaster, when he joins us on Thursday, has spotted. Let's go out to another name we haven't talked about in a little bit. This is good old VALE, what we like to call on the show colloquially VALE. Ticker symbol VALE, V-A-L-E. Trading right now a 14 and a third. You know this one, listeners. The Brazilian metals and mining name out there. Trading about 14 and 35 today, up about a dime on the year. See, a year ago it was trading 16 and a quarter, so not the best of the years, but it got even worse. It got down to the low for the year of 11 and three quarters. That was back in September of last year. Then it turned around from there. Had a pretty impressive resurgence. By beginning of the year, January, it was trading almost $20, $19.30. So it went from about 11 and change to almost $20, so nearly doubling. And then this chart looks like it just flip of itself, and it came right back down again from January until about May 31st. We got right back down again to 1268. So if you bought the stock in September and you held it through end of May, you did a whole lot of nothing. You got excited. You got excited early on in January, and you gave it all right back. But looks like they're trying to make it back again over the past month. It's up a couple of percent out there, so trying to rally it. It's gone from 1268 to where it is right now, 1435 or so out there. And Mr. Flowmaster, what did your Eye of the Flowmaster spot today in everyone's favorite VALE, a.k.a. VALE, sir?
So, yeah, this was an interesting one, and it specifically stood out because we had put out a note about bullish flow yesterday when we saw a collar, kind of a ratio collar, go up. The customer sold 10,000 of the July 13 puts and bought 18,000 of the July 15 calls. And they did that for they did have a net debit on that. They sold 18 cents and they paid 39 cents. Both of them opened. And so we could see that because the open interest moved this morning. And, they're kind of, like you said, this stock is kind of in the middle of its range. It's an iron company, right? So I don't know how much it's going to swing around, but today it's much more of a simple trade. It's the July 16-17 call spread, 50,000 bought for 12.5 cents. That's a nice, and they're both open because there's not really any open interest in either leg. So this is somebody kind of looking for a decent upside breakout. Now, 12.5 cents is not a lot to pay for a call spread, but 50,000 times, we're talking about $62,000, and the payoff could be pretty huge if we did get up there, and that spread became worth $1. So, I think that you're continuing to see a decent amount of kind of reallocation, sector, people. I think some people are getting out of the leaders that we've seen, right? The Apple, the Meta, the Tesla. I think that's why, these names are a little bit quieter today, and they're not going up, even though a lot of the kind of funkier tech names are going up. So, bullish one in there. I probably would. That's probably not a bad one just to own some stock. I don't know if I'd put on an option trade because it doesn't really seem like it makes any big moves. But for a $14 stock, I'd be an owner of a bit.
Yeah, this person or these people here are happy at least on the first leg of their trade and looking all right so far on the second leg. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, they're speaking your language here, kicking things off with a nice bullish risk reversal, which is looking pretty good right now, the July 13-15, and then someone piling in today to the July 16-17, a straight upside vertical. So I suppose, which one of these do you like better, sir?
Wasn't that vertical like 50,000 contracts?
Pretty sizable, yes.
In VALE, yeah, we saw that one too. We saw paper in there last week, to be quite honest. So, I'm looking up there's discussion. So, yes, the VALE trade did get our attention, and actually they were buying calls in VALE last week. The stock sold off a little bit, but I'm assuming that it might perk up a little bit more. So yes, this is the second time in a week where somebody has put up ridiculous paper in VALE. So I'm assuming somebody wants some commodities, but I didn't realize what a giant company VALE was. how huge their sales are in commodities. Like they sell $44 billion a year of platinum, gold, silver, cobalt, nickel, iron ore, copper, and everything. It's a huge company. Anyway, just a little sidelight there. Yeah, their net income is $15 billion. It's more than Nvidia, and Nvidia's worth $1 trillion, and this little mining company is only worth $65 billion. So there you go.
There you go. Buy it all right now, sir. We've all learned in the AI boom, there's no such thing as a PE anymore. These concepts are antiquated. Are they using AI to dig the precious metals, sir? In which case, I'm all in. Otherwise,
exactly. That's what they need. Exactly.
They need the AI robots to dig the gold. Then this stock 10x overnight. You watch. Listeners, you like these? You like these? This vertical or this July risk reversal? Intriguing stuff out here. Speaking of intriguing, man, we're all over the place today, which is kind of fun. We've got names popping in. We got different sectors popping in. Another name we haven't talked about in quite a while that is popping hard today. Some might say piping hot because it's a pizza. Domino's a pizza. Ticker symbol DPZ. Just exploding today. 324.5. This name is trading at right now. Up nearly 19 handles or a little over 6%. Just exploding north today. Listeners, it seems like a bunch of analysts are upgrading it today on the strength of their carry out the pizza game. So, man, Domino's right now, if you don't follow Domino's, looks like hanging out closer to their low than their high, but still nice pop today. 52-week low, 285, almost 286, and the high was 426. So intriguing stuff. Let's look back and see when all that hit. Yeah, a year ago was when they were hanging out near those highs. They were 385 a year ago. They got up to their high for the year, 426 and change. That was in August. And then they sold off. Well, forget about it. We rallied hard in August of last year and then sold off hard after that into October. Who knows if we have a repeat on our hands with rally hard now, but we shall see. Domino's looks like it got down close to that low for the year. Didn't quite get there. It got down to 300, then it bounced. And then in November, got back up to about almost 390. And then hung out there for a while and fell off a cliff in February from 356 down to the low for the year of about 285. So obviously some bad numbers back in February, but apparently that has changed now because now they're getting some good numbers because they've been hanging out in this kind of 285 to 300 range for the better part of the last few months until today, where they're just skyrocketing north. So apparently all that bad news they had in February, it is now gone, listeners. Mr. Flowmaster, what did your eye spot out there in Domino's a pizza today?
Well, I'm from New York, so I can't in good faith say I'm a big fan of Domino's Pizza. But this trade was a little interesting, and it's kind of good that TradeAlert has the data that it has in it to toot my own horn. But first, it looked like a buyer of the 300 calls around $20 right in the first couple minutes of the day. And so I assumed this was somebody basically going, oh, crap, I'm getting creamed and covering a short. And there was open interest there, but I was able to back up and because in TradeAlert you can go back in time and I can see when those contracts were opened, and they were opened around $8, but it was a buyer when they were opened, and it was a customer buyer, and I can see that because of the CBOE data. It happened to trade on a CBOE exchange when it was opened. So today's actually looks like an exit to me, and I think somebody did pretty well, and it also I think paid a $1.20 dividend yesterday. So this might be somebody that likes the stock, that has some of the stock, maybe was waiting for the dividend to pass or something to get out of their position. But that's what it looks like to me. The other thing that was a little bit interesting, and I was trying to figure it out, is the other pizza, the symbol PZZA, which is Papa John's. That one's got heavy put volume today. So maybe somebody's kind of putting on an outperformance type of trade.
Pizza Piers trade, baby. I love it.
Exactly. Like, I don't know on that if Papa John's versus Domino's. I guess I'd probably prefer Papa John's, but could be an interesting little pizza spread going on.
Pizza spread. Mr. Rock Lobster, are you down with this pizza spread? And which leg are you buying? Which leg are you selling in the Papa John's versus Domino's pizza spread, sir?
Which slice?
Oh my gosh, they are kind of let's see here. Is that somebody? I'm looking at this today. Oh, So the DPC guy they just made a bunch of money, and now you're seeing some put buyers in Papa John's. I don't know. I think Domino's has come way off of their pandemic highs, as I recall. Weren't they like? It was like it was super high property.
They were
right?
426. Yeah.
So Henry, you were looking at these calls like, okay, they bought them, and today they're selling at 20. So they made some big bucks on these calls.
Yeah, they doubled their money. That's plus some.
That's pretty darn good. It's hard to complain, but I don't know why Domino's all of a sudden up $20 today. But and then you see put buyers in Papa John's. It's this kind of weird. Didn't Papa John's had all that bad press a while ago? So somehow Domino's has kind of skated through it. All I know is Domino's pizzas are a lot more expensive than they used to be. So,
you don't get 3 for $10 anymore.
I don't think so.
With the breadsticks,
I think you get 1 for 14 now, and
man.
So I mean, how can you be? I mean, somebody just double their money on the call, so they got to be pretty thrilled.
Thrilled indeed. We always love having the Flow Master fill us up. We got no Uncle Mike, so we could spend a little extra time here today in the old odd block. So how about we get out of here on a bit of a threefer? Listeners. First, let's go out to a name we haven't talked about in quite a while. This is that JETS ETF, ticker symbol JETS, JETS. It's been quite a while since we talked about this one. This one, the low for the year, 14 3/4. The high, 21 1/4. Trading close to that high right now, $20.50, up about 15 cents today. Looks like we got Mr. Flowmaster finding himself a wee bit of puts out there. 21,000 puts going up out there. Not a lot of calls, but there is call love going on in the EV side today. In particular, we've got NKLA first off. 8,300 of the October 2 calls going up in one print for 30 cents this morning. Paper lifting the offer on those when the stock was a whopping $1.48. Total of 16,000 of those going up today. And then not to be outdone, a name, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the network before. This is Lordstown Motors, ticker symbol RIDE, RIDE, also getting some call love, but this is very near-dated paper. These are 4 calls expiring next week, the 23rd. Someone picking up 5,287 of those for 15 cents this morning when the stock was $3.50. Coming in for a couple of thousand more, so a total of 7,000 of those on the day, and a total of 16,000 of the NKLA 2 calls having traded on the day. So, Mr. Flowmaster, what are your thoughts on these jet puts? And then what are your thoughts, if any, on these this EV upside call Palooza today, sir?
So Jets was yesterday, and it was pretty heavy flow in two lines. It was the July 20 puts, they were being bought to open, and the SEP 19 puts, like 15,000 a piece in a bunch of sweeps. So it was kind of somebody sweeping up everything they could. We've had such a quick run up. My guess is this might just be somebody, who's been long airlines and kind of has made some money in the last couple of weeks and is willing to put a little portion of it just into kind of a simple put hedge. The ETF is still much lower than it was pre-COVID. These airlines have been really beaten up. They have not bounced back like the tech names. So I think that's what that is. But it's worth. I'm kind of leaning towards some sort of a pullback as well. Now you mentioned RIDE, which I'm like, wait, I think I own some of that, and I pulled it up in my platform, and I'm long it. And guess what my basis is? I'm not going to tell you when I bought it, but just guess what I paid for that stock, which is now around $4.
I'm going to say you paid $2.50.
No, I paid $186 for it.
Oh, Jesus.
In April of 2021.
I don't mean to laugh, but wow.
But hey, I made back 25% today.
You're golden.
So
you're on the way.
Now I'm only down 97.8%. Maybe I'll start selling some calls against it. I pasted it into our group chat. A bunch of the EV names today are seeing pretty big upside moves. I think, like I said, I feel like people, there's a little bit of a wealth effect. People kind of have calmed down. They don't. I think another interest rate hike might have hurt us yesterday. It didn't happen. So things were kind of back to the complacent kind of vibe. And so people are playing around. And, some of these cheap dollar stocks, whether it's AI or electric vehicles, it's easy to get people excited about that. And I think that's what we're seeing in in this mix, we got NKLA, we got NEO. And like I said, what's funny is Tesla's not participating today. So I think there was a lot of press about how the run up over the last month or two really was 8 or 9 stocks, and those dragged the averages up, and that was actually making some people pretty nervous. And maybe people have listened. They stopped buying the super cap names, and they're playing around in the smaller cap names, looking for the rest of the market to catch up.
All the cheapy EVs getting some love out there. Are you playing in any of these, listeners? They have been beaten up a little bit out there. See, we don't just talk about our winners here on the show, listeners. The Flowmaster telling you where he got in originally in ride. Good stuff here. Speaking of things being told to us, let's see what you guys have on your brain right now. A little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, let's get out there, see what you guys have on the brain. Let's also see what our live chat has in store for us today. Remember, you can join the live chat, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Listeners, we have Nichols saying, Domino's pizza sucks. The lava cakes are decent, though. Yeah, I could probably get behind that. I know a few people who like their lava cakes. He says, the stock looking nice as well. Yeah, they're looking pretty hot. Some might say piping hot today. He also says he feels your pain, Henry, on the ride. So I'm guessing he bought some a little bit higher as well. You are not alone, sir. I don't know if you bought it at your level, but you're not alone in the Lordstown Motors pain there. Our chat commiserates with you. Then we have Option God. Oh, he's got a question for you. Option God says, how do I get that free trial of the Eye of Sauron again, Mr. Flowmaster? So tell him how he can go about it, sir.
Just go to CBOE.com/RMA, which is Risk and Market Analytics, and go down to the bottom, and there's a form. You can send in a note, say, I heard about Trade Alert on the Options Insider, and I want to try it out. And we'll hook you up with a month free trial, real-time data, and some help to make sure that it shows you all the juicy stuff that it shows us.
You need a little glowing button at the bottom of the CBOE website with a glowing Eye of Sauron. Just says, get your Eye of Sauron trial here. And then put next to it parentheses, not TM, no trademark. Just click that button. I got a feeling our folks would be all over that. Speaking of all over things, our question of the week, listeners. We asked you quite simply, VIX continues to drop while rates continue to go mostly up. We wrote this before the Fed, so we weren't sure if they were going to raise or not. It's challenging to generate income using options while the rewards for cash are substantial, which raises the question, are you still selling covered calls in this environment? Gave you 4 choices. Yes, I'm just selling a little closer to the at the money. Or yes, I am, but I'm okay with a little bit less income right now. Or no, it's just too much risk for me, or I'm just in cash. I'm out of this market. Or no, there's not enough income for me at all. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what is your vote? What do you think our audience is voting for?
Wow, that's a good one.
We try. We aim to please, sir.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, again, this is okay. What are they saying? I'm going to guess the audience is saying they're selling closer to the money. For me, right now, I would say there's just not enough in it to do it.
Yeah, I could see that, Mr. Flowmaster, sir. Where do you fall on our poll, and where do you think our audience is falling, sir?
I still think selling cover calls is great. You know what? I mean, if you're comfortable kind of limiting your upside a little bit, you're comfortable with the gains that you've made on a stock, then I love that strategy. I think you have to have the discipline not to do it on stocks that are really beaten up where you're desperate to try to make back a little bit of money. Maybe that's why I didn't do it in Lordstown Motors.
You're waiting for that par strike to come back up before you start writing those calls again out there. Let's see. Our audience, they're on the no side right now. They agree with the Rock Lobster. They say there's too much risk right now, or they're in cash. 40% right now. Then we have a tie for all the rest, around 20% each for no, not enough income, or yes, I'm okay with less income, or yes, just sell closer to at the money. So the other 3 kind of a tie. Looks like the close to majority of you right now are closing in on half of you saying there's too much risk right now, or you're in cash. We have Option God in our chat saying he voted no, too much risk as well. So I can certainly see that. I'm not going to hold that against anybody out there. Well, let's see. We are coming up against it, listeners. So let's keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode, which won't be on Monday next week. Listeners, we're all going to be like the Flowmaster. Our next appearance not going to be till next Thursday on the old OB show because we are all off for the holiday on Monday. So, Mr. Flowmaster, we'll start with you. What are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next Thursday?
I'm just watching, watching kind of the beginning of the summer. I think it's going to be kind of a quiet and sideways summer. Realistically, I think we'll get some good moves. If we get pullbacks, I'll try to buy, and if we kind of continue to hit some highs, I'll be trickling out some calls, or maybe even unloading some stock. But I think it's going to be kind of one of those summers where it'll be some good opportunities. I'm looking at these little. That's a pretty interesting dynamic, and we see it in kind of times of speculative, not a frenzy so much, but there's no fear out there right now. So I'm gonna be looking for kind of a quick in and out on some of the speculative pops, and otherwise keeping things a little bit smaller than usual.
And looking for that par strike again in Lordstown. We're all cheering for you there, Mr. Flowman.
Okay.
Sounds like our chat is too, because they're pain. Mr. Rocklops, the same question for you. We were all waiting for the Fed this week. Kind of a bit of a nothing burger, but also a bit of a rally burger, I guess, as well. So if you're a bull, you're liking it. Mr. Flowmaster, or Mr. Rocklobster, what are you keeping an eye on until our next episode for the OB next Thursday?
I mean, yeah. Look, I mean, you're looking at SPY is 441. There's kind of no end to the rally. We're actually rallying with just NVIDIA's not up. Microsoft is kind of powering up today, but the rest of the market is starting to, wake up a little bit. So I'm just saying, the only thing I say is I like to see vol drop a little bit, but the rubber band has been stretched so far. I think it's going to be hard for that to happen. So it is not going to surprise me. We are 92 points away from 4,500. That's all I'm going to say. It looks like a million miles away, but the back of my head is like, I think the market wants to get there before the 4th of July at this point because the Fed isn't going to raise. We got a budget deal. On we go. So that's what I'm looking for.
On we go indeed, listeners. On to our next program on the network coming up in a little bit for all you live folks hangouts, and we'll be back in a little bit. I'll be joined by the folks from Prosper Trading Academy on TWIFO to break down all the action going on in the world of all things futures options. You want to check it out for yourselves. Join us, of course, in a little bit on the live or after the fact, wherever you're getting this fine program. If you're listening to the network, it'll be there waiting for you after this. Let's go back around the horn. Let's start with the flowingest of masters, Mr. Flowmaster, sir. We talked about it before. Give them an update. Where should folks go if they want to check out all the stuff you got cooking in the land of SIBO?
SIBO.com/RMA. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're just Option Alert. So I'm trying to up the content there. Although I'll tell you, the Elon's API changes are making our life a little difficult. So.
a lot of his changes on Twitter making a lot of people's lives difficult. And stay tuned for that glowing Eye of Sauron button coming to the bottom of the CBOE homepage soon, right, Mr. Flowmaster? They can expect that next week?
Absolutely.
Imagine the fun people will have with that. In the meantime, you know where to go, listeners. At CBOE, or should say, at CBOE on Twitter, at Option Alert on Twitter, and of course, CBOE.com, the place to go to begin your journey to the dark side of all things trade alert. And Mr. Rocklobster, where should they go if they want to begin their journey to the dark side of the pit?
Yeah, go to optionpit.com, call up Ted 888-TRADE-01, Ted or Andrew, our customer care team. And if you hear this show, you get 10% off anything, or go on over to Money Map Press to weekly profit cycles.
There you go. Check him out. It's going to do it for us on this show. Back in a little bit with all things futures, options related. And then back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for all things vol-related, vol views. And then back again for all you pro folks after that for options oddities. And then back again, not on Monday, but again next Thursday for the next episode of the old OB. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.